The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and this week I'm so pleased to be joined by our old friend, it's Steve Sabatke. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, thank you, and congratulations on the 9-year anniversary of this show.
You are the 9-year, 1 week
Am I the 9-year, 1 week guy?
You are the start of the 10th year.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you haven't changed one bit.
Yeah. Right.
Over the 9 years.
Yeah, the beard's gotten longer, the hair's gotten much shorter. It's exciting, and we're hurtling towards our 10th year. So we get started, though, this week with a bunch of movies, and I'm going to get us started with what we have on the marquee this week. It's a new film called Polite Society from director Nida Manzoor. It's a story all about a young girl, Rhea, played by Priya Kansara. She is obsessed with being a stunt woman. She's good at martial arts and dreams of working with her favorite stunt woman. She tries way too hard, but fails at landing her kicks, especially in a big fight at school. She really struggles. She's persistent, though, and confident in her opinions and her skills, even as she tends to lose these fights. And she has a use of her catchphrase, "I am the Fury," which is great. Unfortunately, she is of Pakistani descent. Her family and others say she should follow conventional expectations, as is the way of cultural expectations. Go and become a doctor. But she and her sister Lena, who's played by Rita Arya, are very happy to be very different as far as young women go in this society. They aren't like others. Lena is an artist who dropped out of art school. Their mother is trying to fit in with posh society and get their daughters to fit in with the children who have their futures laid out ahead of them and all this stuff, arranged marriages. But these two sisters, these gals, are not about that. They enjoy fighting against cultural expectations for them and their futures until one night at one of these galas for an eligible bachelor, a man named Salim, Rhea makes a discovery about her sister Lena and this guy that infuriates her. She sees her sister changing for him, and she sees it as a personal affront that she would fall for this man. Rhea believes in fighting the patriarchy at all costs, and so it's especially true when it comes to this seemingly nice guy. So she and her friends concoct a plan to go and steal his laptop that may or may not have some incriminating information, especially as it pertains to Salim and his mother, because she refuses to give up on Lena's dream, even as Lena says she doesn't want to be an artist anymore. It's fine, I'll just do what I'm expected to do. And the film kind of hurtles into this really fun action flick as true intentions are revealed and martial arts are applied, and I found this film to be really, really fun.
Yeah, I'm going to put this into the category of pleasant surprise, because when you said that we were going to watch this, I went, never heard of it.
Yeah.
I knew absolutely nothing about it, went into the theater with absolutely no expectations, and as it turned out, I thought it was a pretty entertaining 104 minutes.
Yeah.
This is the first feature film for the director, Nida Manzoor, and I like the fact that she kind of took this martial arts genre and married it with this story of these two sisters that share a special bond together.
Yeah.
And then she takes, filmmaking from those epic Bollywood movies like RRR and combines it with British humor.
Yes.
And I thought it was, pretty decent action comedy. There were times when it reminded me of Bend It Like Beckham.
Sure. Yep.
And I thought, the actresses who played the two sisters were very good. Is it over the top at times? Yeah, it is. I thought the mother of
Salim?
The doctor,
Yes.
who wants to marry Lena. I thought she was a little bit too villainy.
If she would have had a mustache, she would have been twirling it.
Yeah, a little too snidely whiplash.
Yeah.
You pretty much knew right away from the moment that you first see her that something nefarious is going on. But, and then they've got these chapters in the movie, and they bring out these large on-screen titles that tell you what chapter the movie's in. That kind of reminded me of a Quentin Tarantino
Very
film.
pulpy, yeah.
Yeah. But I thought, for her first feature film, she did a great job.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. We showed this film at the Wisconsin Film Festival a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
I heard great things about it. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I heard a lot of great things about it. So that was kind of what led to when I see it's playing in theaters, like, hey, let's see this because I've heard good things. And I'd seen the trailer, and I'm relieved that this movie was more than what the trailer showed us, because that trailer, I'm sure, very purposely was cut to make it look like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
It focused on those outlandish and the kung fu and all this stuff to really make it like, hey, you guys love that movie? Come see this one. And I like that this wasn't just an Everything Everywhere clone, that it had its own story of this young girl and her family, and and that it was different. And it reminded me a lot of various high school coming of age comedies. This one was just set against a very different backdrop. But I mean, it didn't remind me that much. It reminded me quite a bit, actually, of like things like Better Off Dead or things like that. Where it's like, I'm trying to figure out myself and the world around me. And
well, the most interesting characters in the film for me were Rhea's two friends.
Yes,
Clara and Alba, and I thought they represented the funniest moments in the film.
Yeah, they were great.
I mean, there's some things that don't work out. Like the scene with the condoms, which I'm going to leave at that. Yeah. Watch the movie if you want to know what it is. I thought that kind of fell flat. That didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But, overall, I was surprised. I really was.
What did you end up giving Polite Societies?
I gave it 3.5 stars. I think if you're looking for a good action comedy, defies expectations, go see it.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's a lot of fun. And it is nice to be surprised by a movie that you go in with little to no expectations for and enjoy it. And I was part of it too. I was saying before the show, I was with a crowd that was into it, and so that makes it a little more fun when the audience is laughing along and all that. So.
Well, when I went, it was just me and another guy. I mean, we were the only two there.
Not the same energy.
Sorry.
All right, let's turn to another coming of age tale we have featuring a young girl. What do you have for us?
It is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's in theaters, directed by Kelly Freeman Craig, and it's a coming-of-age comedy drama based on the 1970 novel of the same name by Judy Blume. And the focus of this movie is on 6th grader Margaret Simon, played by Abby Ryder Fortson. She played Cassie Lang in the first 2 Ant-Man movies.
That's where I knew her from.
Yeah, and this movie starts with Margaret learning, much to her dismay, that her family is moving from New York City to the suburbs of New Jersey. Now, her mother, Barbara, is played by Rachel McAdams. Her dad, Herb, is played by Benny Safdie. And Margaret prays to God to not let New Jersey be too horrible. Once she's in New Jersey, she is asked to join a secret club of other 6th grade girls. That club fixates on things like boys, wearing a bra, and getting your first period. And as Margaret tries to navigate through all of this, Barbara, the mother, is trying to tackle all the responsibilities that come with volunteering for the PTA after giving up her career as an artist. Margaret's also trying to figure out religion. That is also another theme in this movie. And after writing that she doesn't like religious holidays in a school paper, her teacher gives her an assignment of researching religion for a year-long class project. Now, Margaret has no religion, as her Jewish father and her Christian mother want her to choose her own when she grows up, but that's very much to the disappointment, you see her right there, of Margaret's Jewish grandmother, played by the always great Kathy Bates. And Jamison, what I really liked about this movie is that the teen characters are not these dumbed-down, goofy buffoons that we often see in coming-of-age stories. These characters are portrayed as real people with real questions and in real situations. I mean, I'm not a mother, obviously. I'm not a daughter, but I think what happens in this story from 1970, I think it still has relevance and it still resonates today. Mm-hmm. And I haven't read the book. I don't know if you have. My daughter, who went with me to see this, I thought she read it. She did not. But when I got back home after seeing the movie and my wife asked me about it, she didn't go, I told her, I kind of scolded her a little bit. I said, you need to see this movie with your daughter because this is a film about the special bond between a mother and a daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. It felt genuine. It felt
It
genuine.
did.
It felt like it
It
captured
really does.
the era and these girls, these preteens. It all felt very genuine, and the awkwardness of moving to a new area, a new school. It's such an awkward time in your life. It's going to be awkward for you no matter what at this age, this prepubescent. Things are happening at weird times. And I thought that was captured really well. And these kids who are in a rush to grow up, in a rush to prove, that they're grown up, and that all of a sudden boys and sex and puberty are thrown into this blender of emotions. And I thought Margaret was great. I thought all the friends were believable
Yes,
and
they were.
fun. And Rachel McAdams is the mom who mirrors that. She's trying to fit in. She's trying to become Susie Homemaker for the first time.
Yeah.
And she's trying to fit in with the PTA moms who are all perfect and pristine, and she's very much not. And she feels that awkwardness of, I'm not as good as them. Why are they this? And I loved how those two kind of ran parallel courses in the story. And then you bring in the aspect of religion and the grandparents and the way that religion had kind of lodged a wedge between these families, specifically between their family and Benny Safdie's parents.
Yep.
And then you bring in Kathy Bates, who is just brash and is going to say what's on her mind, no matter what the
I don't think
effect of
anybody
it.
else could have played that character
Oh
except
man, she
her.
was so great.
But you mentioned Rachel McAdams, and I've always liked her, and I think this is her best performance to date. I
It's
really
been a
do.
while.
It's
since
been
I
a
saw
while.
Something that she was this good in.
I mean, there is a very poignant scene in the movie where she is explaining to Margaret, because Margaret asked the question, why do you no longer have contact with your parents? Yeah. And she explains that to him. And it is a real heart-wrenching moment in the film.
It is.
I thought Rachel McAdams, I thought this film actually belonged to her. You're right, Margaret was great. She did a great job, Abby Ryder-Fortson, but I thought this was Rachel McAdams' best performance.
It was
so
because she
far.
had to juggle the dynamic with her daughter, the dynamic with her husband, and then the dynamic with both her parents and her mother-in-law. And none of these were easy. And she was actually the one kind of trying to juggle all these things. And I thought that it was just an incredibly sweet movie. It gave me all the emotions. I kind of went through a gamut of emotions. A great soundtrack. Really,
all the great
really
stuff that I
fun
grew
soundtrack.
up listening to.
Yeah, I thought of you when I was watching this. And I thought that this story just really captures so much of this age. I went to it. I have a 10-year-old daughter. Margaret in this movie is 11 years old. I watched this and I came home with a 1,000-yard stare of like, we have this coming very soon.
Here it
Some of these
comes,
conversations have been hinted at recently.
I've been through it.
Right? And now I'm going, well, we're in for it. We're in for it. And it made me appreciate Judy Blume because
Yes.
this is very true to her writing, and what made her so legendary is her ability to really connect with this age, to show exactly what it's like to be of this age.
Well, I had read where she was very reluctant to see this book made into a film, and she kind of said, no, we're not going to do that for the longest time until now. Did you catch her in the movie? She's got a very brief cameo.
I did not.
My daughter and I caught it right away.
Oh.
It's real quick. But, if you want to know more about Judy Blume, I want to bring this up. There's a new documentary on Prime Video, I believe, about her called Judy Blume Forever, that if you want, and I haven't seen it yet, I want to see it, but I think if you want to get more insight into what she does and this book, see that documentary.
It's a great documentary that kind of talks about her, just the way she's able to channel this age and how she has total recall of her childhood. And so she's able to put herself back in the place of being this age for like the Super Fudge books or this book. And it also deals with her fighting against cancel culture.
Yes.
And people who are trying to go back into her history and be like, but it's great. And what I love is Judy Blume, her books, her stories, so many generations have been able to discover her, love her, and relate to them. It's not a dated piece of work.
Right.
You're able to relate it to it. They're ageless. They're timeless stories. So, What did you end up giving Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret?
I gave it 4.5 stars.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I did as well. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I give it 4 out of 5. Really fun. Really great. And it's one that I would definitely go rewatch again. I went by myself. I definitely want to bring my wife and daughter to see this one. It's a lot of fun. All right, let's move on to what we have for our streaming spotlight this week, sir. We turn to Disney Plus for the newest film of one of Disney's retelling of their classic animated films. It's Peter Pan and Wendy. This is the classic retelling of the old story of the boy who wouldn't grow up, the darling family that he dragged to Never Never Land, and his battles with the dread pirate Captain Hook. And it continues in the tradition of Disney's live-action remakes of their animated properties. This one stars young man Alexander Maloney as Peter Pan. He, of course, goes back. He meets up with the Darling children, led by Wendy. She's in the title, played by Ever Anderson. She is the daughter of Mila Jovovich and Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not Paul Thomas. Yeah, no.
Yep.
Yes, and this one doesn't stray too far from the familiar for most of this film.
Not at all.
It's directed by David Lowery, who's a great director.
Who's from Milwaukee.
Yes. Peter shows up, and with some fairy dust, he whisks the children away to another land where they are snatched up by Captain Hook, played by Jude Law, and Peter has to show up to save the day. And this is my big complaint, is this movie lacked a lot of fun moments.
Yes.
It was really, it lacked dynamism, whatever the word, it looked so drab and flat and lifeless. And you see here in the trailer, everything's brown for some reason. The characters, for the most part, are so lifeless. And it's just bland and it's boring. And even the giant alligator shows up, and that should be a big moment. And it was just this.
It wasn't.
It's just this big blob of thing. And Peter, unfortunately, the young man, Alexander Maloney, who played Peter, I thought he had very little charisma.
Yes.
And really, no one outside of Jude Law's Captain Hook stood out to me.
Oh.
And that's easy because Captain Hook is the big character. He's the one that everyone who plays Captain Hook gets to have fun with. So, of course, that should stand out because he's an over-the-top villain. And he's really the only one who has a backstory in this movie of any kind of sort. And, you can have fun with him. But I was really frustrated with this. Wendy, who, despite being in the title, it's not her story.
No, it's not.
At all. She's dragged along.
It's more like Peter Pan and Captain Hook.
It's the same story you always get. We've got this 100 times.
Well, David Lowery directed The Green Knight,
yes.
which I know
loved
you
it.
really liked, and I thought it was good. But that was a very original, different kind of movie, and I thought we would see those elements incorporated into this film. We do not.
Yeah.
I think it's almost as if Lowery went to the Disney execs and said, here's what I want to do with this story, and they looked at him and said, nah, just stick to the 1953.
Have you seen the original? Just make that.
The 1953 cartoon. I thought there was nothing special about the performances of the kids.
Yeah.
Jude Law, he was just portraying a captain of a pirate ship. He happened to have a hook as one of his hands. I thought, Jim Gaffigan playing Mr. Smee, that's going to be funny. It's not.
He was the only one, though, that I thought I enjoyed a little because
Really?
he committed, because he wasn't just Jim Gaffigan. He actually was like,
I wanted
Mr.
him to
Smee.
be Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah, he was the only one I was like, all right, he's kind of fun.
Yeah, the crocodile looks like it came out of a bad sci-fi film. The only part that was interesting to me was there's this middle section where they're in the lair of the Lost Boys, and they start bringing up this backstory about the relationship between Peter Pan and Captain Hook.
Right.
And I thought, okay, this is going to get interesting, but then that part is told a little bit, and then they go to the final half hour or so of the movie, which is pretty much a dumb action sequence, like the cartoon, and that's it. If they would have explored that more, I thought, okay, that's interesting. But you know what? Don't you find it interesting that Disney decided to release this on Disney Plus within a month of the theatrical release of The Little Mermaid?
Yeah, it surprised me, the timing of it all.
And right now, The Little Mermaid's getting all the attention, and it hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah, this surprised me. And for me, we've talked before about The Little Mermaid. I'm not super excited about it. I don't, not a big fan of The Little Mermaid to begin with. And I'm being worn down to the nub with these Disney remakes, right?
Yeah.
And so after Pinocchio last year and just a series of these, Lady and the Tramp, like all these, I was like, I'm getting worn down by it. And like, okay, you should build excitement for Little Mermaid. But then you release this, and I go, oh, I hated that. So why would I get excited about Little Mermaid coming in a few weeks? I was really frustrated by this movie. I mean, Tinkerbell's in there; she's just there.
Well, there's a little moment at the end of the film with Tinkerbell that kind of was cute and caught me by surprise. But there's just so few of those moments in this movie.
I'm also very curious as it pertains to Little Mermaid because this followed suit with a lot of the other things that Disney's been doing, where it feels like they're trying to do a redemption story for their villains. We saw that with Cruella. We saw that with Maleficent. We see this with this.
Yeah.
Of like, we need to tell a little backstory, make Captain Hook sympathetic, and give him a little redemption. And I'm like, okay, so we get an Ursula redemption story, and then in the next movie. But more than anything, it's just the look of this film was horrible. It felt the color palette, like I understood it when we were in dreary old foggy London town. Everything's drab and flat and plain, like great. But I was expecting that Wizard of Oz moment when we get to Never Never Land, where the color palette gets rich and bold and vibrant. And we get to Never Never Land, and it's just brown.
Yeah, well, I don't know where they filmed it. Kind of looked like they just were on an island in Australia or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just thought it was going to be more interesting once we get to Never Never Land.
It
really wasn't. And it had me questioning, as I sat really bored watching this movie, I'm thinking, who's this movie made for? Because my daughter had no interest in watching this. No one in my family had interest in watching this. I wasn't interested in it.
I don't know.
I don't know who this is meant for. And I don't know why these movies continue to fail, these Disney live-action remakes that are more missed than hits, in my opinion.
Well, we'll see with The Little Mermaid how that is.
That we will, because that is coming very soon. Are you excited for The Little Mermaid?
I kind of am because it's going to be directed by it was directed by Rob Marshall, who's done musicals, did Chicago, which won Best Picture.
That it did.
So
another
I
local
think
guy.
I've got my hopes up a little bit. They'll probably be
You're
shattered.
just going to get burned. You're just willing to get hurt all over again, aren't you?
I guess, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. What did you end up giving Peter Pan and Wendy?
I am Peter Panned out. I tried to look up how many film versions there are of this. There's probably too many to count. I gave it 2 stars.
Yeah, I was so mad at this movie, I took my Peter Pan peanut butter and threw it out the window. I didn't want it in my house.
Do they still make that?
Probably, I don't know. They used to be my favorite
I remember that as a kid,
I love some Peter Pan peanut butter. I ended up giving it 1.5 out of 5 stars.
Wow.
It was a tough watch.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable time. Not a way to spend my hour and 47 minutes during the week. So I wouldn't recommend you do either. Let's turn, though, sir. We've talked about, over the last few weeks, talked about the Wisconsin Film Festival a lot. People are already sick of me talking about it. But you came to the Film Fest because there was a documentary there that you were excited to see. And I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I've been waiting patiently for a few weeks to hear your thoughts on this film. What did you end up seeing?
Well, I saw at the film festival Hung Up on a Dream, directed by Robert Schwartzman, who just happens to be the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola.
Whoa.
And this is the 2023 documentary of the British rock band from the 60s, the Zombies, that had hits with She's Not There and Tell Her No and Time of the Season, great songs. Their 1968 album Odyssey and Oracle was ranked in Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, and a few years ago they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I mean, you know this. We've talked about this before. I love music documentaries, especially those that really get into the weeds about the artists and the music. If you're a casual Zombies fan, you may get bored by all the detail because there's a lot of it here.
Okay.
But I absolutely love that. I mean, this documentary pretty much covers everything from the band's beginnings, when they were struggling to become successful, to when they were going on these, back in the 60s, they used to have these package tours where they would bring together all these different artists from different genres and had them go play at these small places around the United States. And they just talked about how much in awe they were of these other artists like Dionne Warwick and Jackie Wilson and Shangri-Las. And they talk a lot about how they came up with some of their great songs. And what's great about this is you hear from all the band members who are still with us today. There was one band member who passed away, but Rod Argent, Cullen Bluntstone, Chris White, Hugh Grundy. I mean, some of the stories they told, so engaging and interesting and funny. There's some touching moments as well, such as when Cullen Bluntstone talks about meeting his mother after she had left him as a child many years ago. And there's one interesting story where they're recording the album Odyssey and Oracle, and they're paying for this themselves. This is going to be their last effort to try to make it. And there's this red light bulb that's in the studio, and they keep looking at it while they're recording the album, because once that red light comes on, they've run out of money.
Oh, okay.
and the recording has to stop, and they got to go. So they're talking about that and how they're making this album. And one thing I didn't know is, and this is a real tiny detail, but if you look at the album cover of Odyssey and Oracle, the guy that designed the album cover spelled Odyssey wrong. Instead of O-D-Y, it's O-D-E, but they kept it that way. And that's just another interesting thing that comes out of the movie. And this band actually split up before that album came out.
Oh, really?
And they also were not together during the time when Time of the Season became a #1 hit.
No kidding.
In the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah. But I'm happy to report the Zombies have a new album out. It's great. There's a revamped version of them with original members Rod Argent and Cullen Bluntstone. They're currently touring. I had a kick myself in the pants moment a few years ago when they played in Madison. I didn't go see them. I should have. They were recently inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as I mentioned. And I know they released the latest list of inductees into the hall this week. Unfortunately, there's no bands from the 60s. That's a major disappointment. But this documentary is not a disappointment.
That's
it's
awesome.
Quite the opposite. And this is I got to say this was my first time at the film festival. Why I never went before that, I don't know. I had a great time. I loved it.
Good.
And I know you're working on finding a new place next year.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to see more movies at the festival next year.
Good. Yeah, we show a bunch of them.
If you're a movie lover, go to the festival.
Yeah, we got all kinds. And there's usually at least one or two music documentaries. Last year we had the King Crimson documentary, so I was in and out of the Zombies documentary, so I wasn't able to follow, and I don't know much about them. And so popping in and out of the
Well, you're
theater.
a youngster.
Yeah, popping in and out of the theater wasn't going to give me any perspective on it, but it did remind me of just that King Crimson documentary and how these members were kind of recanting stories and stuff like that. And so they do have two of the original members still in the newly formed band. That's always great.
Yep.
I mean, these are no spring
And it still
chickens.
sound great. I mean, I love the new album. So
excellent.
And I don't think it's streaming yet, this documentary, but
yeah, I think it's on the festival circuit right now.
Yeah, but look for it. I think hopefully it'll be streaming soon.
Yeah, you'd expect to see it on Prime or something like that coming soon, and we'll keep an eye out for that. Excellent. Did you have a score for this documentary?
4.5 stars.
There you go. That's always fun. Nice. All right, let's take a look ahead, sir, what is coming soon. The weekend of May 12th, we have a few films. The first one is called The Book Club, The Next Chapter. This is the sequel to the 2018 film that had four old friends reading 50 Shades of Grey together in their book club. We also have an animated film called Rally Road Racers. It's an animated film following a slow-moving mammal who needs to race in the Silk Road Race in order to save his grandma's house. And lastly, in theaters, a film called Fool's Paradise, which is written, directed, and starring Charlie Day as he is the titular fool in Fool's Paradise, who looks just like a famous actor who is refusing to get out of his trailer and report to set. And then lastly, over on Netflix, we have a film called The Mother, starring Jennifer Lopez as an assassin who must come out of hiding in order to save her long-estranged daughter. Next week, I'm going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Chapter 3, among other things, among other people. But thank you, sir, for once again joining me.
Hey, thank you. Glad to do it. Again,
Always a
happy
pleasure.
anniversary.
Hey, all right. All right, until next week, I'm Jamison.
And I'm Steve.
Thanks for watching.